you ready to rise? To be free, too wise. To be free, now you ready to rise? To be free, too wise. To be free, now you ready to rise? To be free, too wise. To be free, now you ready to rise? To be free, too wise. To be free, too wise. To be free, too wise. To be free, you ready to rise? Come on, people.
Seun Kuti and Egypt 80, live in the studios of KXP. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, our pleasure, you know.
It's awesome to have you here. I've been playing your music for a long time. And
yeah, I remember, man, from the first time we hear, you know.
finally get a chance to get you in our new studios. The new record is Struggle Sounds. It's out on Strut Records. There's a lot of messaging in your music. There's it seems like it doesn't come, it's not like a love song where it's like plunk, 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 happiness. There's a lot going on there. And I would love if you could not encapsulate it small, but like, what do you think are the biggest struggles right now that your music is facing? Presenting.
My music is presenting. Oh, okay, yeah. For me, I think basically the biggest struggle in the world has to be the class struggle. That's the biggest struggle of humanity in itself. Has to be the class struggle. You know, I'm more Pan-Africanist because I believe, you know, because the elitist propaganda narrative of black people is...
Yeah.
Welcome. We've got a few folks coming up from the lunch, but I wanted to go ahead and get us started. We have wonderful distinguished guests here today to do an interview about the importance of music to justice issues and rule of law. My name is Nancy Ward. I'm the Chief Engagement Officer at the World Justice Project, and welcome to you here. Artists can be powerful advocates for the rule of law. Artists, and especially musicians, provide voices to and for those who may not be able to speak for themselves. Artists call out unjust practices and hold the powerful accountable. Artists have the ability to unite people. When countries are destabilized, when political systems fail, art can engage a whole community as well as tapping into individual emotions. Complex conversations about injustice become more accessible through visual interpretation, physical movement, and other artistic expression. Art not only reminds us of our own humanity, but helps us remember our rightful place as part of a community with shared values, communities of justice, opportunity, and peace. Art can be as powerful a driver of change as political processes. For these reasons and so many others, I am honored to introduce the featured artists in our next keynote interview, each of whom are driving visibility and empathy for justice through music. Seun Kuti is a Grammy-nominated musician with a long history of political activism. The youngest son of the Afrobeat Nigerian activist and legend Fela Kuti, Seun took over leadership of his father's band at 14 years old. Afrobeat was active protest at a time when Nigerians had limited ability to comment on government policies. Seun Kuti continues this important and necessary work to this day. His latest album, Black Times, addresses ongoing economic oppression and the importance of learning from history to rise above oppression both now and into the future. Seun communicates reality through his music, and he makes no secret about the political importance of music. On his track, Struggle Sounds, he sings, "I make that struggle music as the voice of the people. Struggle sound like the weapon of the future." Derek Mazzoni, to his left, is someone who recognizes that struggle sound. He is the well-known host and influential curator of the music show WOPOP on the internationally recognized radio station and arts institution KEXP. Wopop is a 3-hour weekly look into a genre you might know as world music, but Derek says, I call it modern global music because it encompasses all of the current musical genres while being deeply engaged in the sounds and ideas of each city and region. Derek works intensively with various artists around the world to make sure their art and voice are heard, fostering greater cultural understanding through music. Sean and Derek recently completed an in-studio session at the KEXP studio, which you saw running here when you came in, and it's available anytime online. These sessions are electric, as I expect this conversation will be now. Please join me in welcoming Seun Kuti and Derek Mazzoni.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be with Sean once again, and especially in this kind of setting when we're talking about the role of music in social justice. Couple of things have happened recently. The fact that Sean was nominated for the Grammy for his record. I never, as somebody who loves Fela and loves Afrobeat, never thought that it would suddenly begin in this wonderful space where the world has recognized Afrobeat. Right before you came here, we were talking about how this genre has evolved into a point where Sean and his brother Femi, who are carrying on Fela's work, the fact that if they passed right now, Afrobeat would get bigger and more powerful than ever. There are now Afrobeat bands literally in every country, often in different cities in that country, from as far away as Reykjavik, Norway, Melbourne. And these are like not just jam bands, these are bands whose records I get and videos I see, so it's growing and it's become an international force. Recently, it's become a fashion brand. Carhartt has picked up Fela's imagery and messaging and has created an international brand out of it right now. So this thing, which started in the 60s and 70s, continued to grow, continues, and now is, for the millennials and beyond, it's become part of their identity because Afrobeat means something, it says something, and in a context of the Grammy, yours was the most potent political message of any record that I've seen, or even I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any record that I've seen, even nominated for that award. So congratulations on that, and we know we're going to see more and more of that. So tell me a little bit about. Fela said, "Music is a weapon. Music is a weapon for social justice. Music is a weapon for justice." What does that mean to you right now?
Well, personally, I think I grew up with this mantra, basically all my life. As the foremost musical, activist in Africa, my dad always wanted us to understand that not just music, but music was his own weapon. But anything we do in our life, we have to make sure that it's a way to advance our people, And when my dad actually said music is a weapon of the future, my dad understood that in the future Africa, the way it was going economically, a lot of young people will have to be in sports and entertainment just to get a way out. And with so many people in entertainment and music, if a lot of them begin to use their music, to speak for the people, then it becomes a weapon because we begin to build a collective consciousness, because music is a big part of creating people like to say national consciousness, but I don't really believe in that. I think more a collective consciousness towards social justice and change, and that is why music is a weapon. Like right now, most of the most well-known Africans are our entertainers, and if only they took their time to know Africa and understand Africa and speak for Africa too, I think that can be a very powerful weapon.
So the role of video has become the most powerful form of music discovery. So in the West, YouTube is where people discover music, discover new genres. Music is now seen. And you're in a situation right now where it's so easy. You have a phone, you can record yourself, you can create a video of yourself, and you can post that. So you're seeing artists in different cultures, such as Turkey, Hungary, cultures that have some oppressive qualities to it. Artists can actually make a statement against that government. They have like a 2-week period before they get arrested, but the fact that music, unless they leave, that music becomes a message then is shared virally all over the world. And certain artists use that to push against oppression. Other artists, as you're speaking of, they, you know, there's an escapist quality to certain music where I just want to talk about bling, I want to talk about love, and I don't want to get into politics, into details. You're not falling into that space. You're actually pushing and
Well,
you're
you see-
asking uncomfortable questions. You're talking about hypocrisy. You're talking about colonialism. You know, in our interview, it's the first interview I had where we talked about Chomsky, and I was like, okay, this is going to go into a whole different perspective. Tell me a little bit about like that fact that you know that you're being seen, you know that you're being heard globally. With your father, it was a show and it was a record. That was it. You know, that was the only outlet people get a chance to see him. How do you look at technology and look at the ability to disseminate your message as a way to get your message out?
Well, I think, as much as we think that, Facebook is free and Instagram is free and everybody could, YouTube is, I think these things are also like highly controlled and regulated with the kind of information that can be out there and can be seen and, So, yeah, technology is good, but for music, especially for music business, technology has been like a real difficult thing for the artists, especially artists like me that want to rely on maybe record sales, and I don't want to like do businesses with brands or seek endorsements or sponsorships or be spokespeople for any corporation or brands, because for mainstream music, even though there's no more album sales, the brands and the corporations have come in to fill that hole. But for organic artists like me, it's a real kick in the teeth, So for me, in that aspect, I see technology one way, and even the streaming and things like that, in terms of getting your views, it depends on having a lot of investments to put in your PR and shoot the really nice videos and put the girls and put the cars. And if you don't want to do that as well, you need to become highly creative, and then people don't really want to, partner you in doing that. You can't get sponsorships for that. So it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, you can also create your own content and put it out there, without waiting for the usual organic, mainstream media to pick it up.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, in the past, it would be like the story, somebody who's doing really interesting music in, let's say, Mali or Nigeria, is sitting there creating stuff, has a vibrant small scene, then suddenly a Paul Simon or a Peter Gabriel anoints that person, and you come now to London or you come to Paris, and we record you and we put you out through this particular channel.
Yeah, but it's the same thing today, with our pop artists, but this time it's not Paul Simon, it's Rick Ross or Kanye West or somebody,
But they're still anointing. But it's true, but even within, the thing that's interesting about music than other genres is that it absorbs other things really quickly. Right now, even in my car coming up here, I'm hearing Bad Bunny, I'm hearing reggaeton, I'm hearing music of the Caribbean, I'm hearing Afrobeats, I'm hearing all these things that suddenly, this was just like geeks like myself would be like crate digging, finding this stuff. Now this is the mainstream. So there's an interest in these cultures, and you could be considered, it's considered modern global music from my perspective, but it is kind of like a post, I don't want to get too technical, post-colonialism, where it's suddenly this particular form of music is absorbed by this culture and then recreated. You're seeing, reggaeton posses in Amsterdam. It's like, you've never been to the Caribbean. How is this thing coming? Speak to me about that if you can.
Well, for me also, music is a gift to humanity. Like, people also ask me, how do you feel about European bands playing Afrobeat? I, for one, I don't really believe anybody owns anything just because they invent it, I believe, everything is humanity's inheritance. And even if my father, invented Afrobeat, I feel Afrobeat has always been there. My father is just the guy that took a universal language and was able to translate it into human language, human form. Everything is there. You're just the one that, was able to put it together and make us see it, So for me, it's a gift to the world. Everybody has a right to play the music, listen to the music, enjoy the music. let it inspire them, create the change that it was made to be, And so if people in Amsterdam want to play reggaeton, it's fine, But what is different, in business is, everything is linked to profit. So if it's cheaper for people to only get reggaeton bands from Amsterdam to play the big gigs, and they're closer to the big venues in Europe, maybe they don't want to now fly out the real bands from the Caribbean to come out and play, I think that's the only thing that's different, and might hurt the scene. But in terms of that, the sky is big enough for all the birds to fly.
True. True. The other thing that's changed in the music industry is that festivals have gotten much bigger. What started with like a thing like Glastonbury,
Exactly.
and now literally the way to make money is through streaming and through festivals, through touring. This is frustrating for artists because it used to be record sales, but the music industry inherently kind of destroys itself every 10 years or so. Right now, yesterday Spotify had 100 million paid subscribers for its streaming services. How working artists actually make money in that's questionable right now. But before streaming, there was downloading. Before downloading, there was CDs, which destroyed record sales. Surprise, record sales are back right now. I'm personally in the process of digitizing a gigantic CD collection because you can't even give CDs away. There's a particular sound of CDs falling into garbage disposal because they're not recyclable. So this icon, this thing, which cost a lot of money, now is more or less useless. The music inherently of itself is a digital file, or it's the experience that you have at a festival. Now, speaking of festivals, when you get booked for a festival, you're reaching an audience that's there for a bunch of different things, but you come in and you give a particular message to them, a very deep message. Now, when people would go see your father or just you for a show, they kind of know what they're getting, but at a festival, it's a blank slate. So you have an opportunity right now to really reach people through an amazing musical genre which moves them physically and emotionally, and yet they leave remembering you. Some of these genres, I'm going to get in trouble for this. It's forgettable. It's like watching an Avengers movie. It's like, what just happened? Okay.
Oh,
but
I slept through the end yesterday. I slept through the end. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I slept.
But with you, with the music you make, it's a lasting impact, and that's powerful. And what's your thought when you get booked for a festival and you know you're going to reach a bunch of people that have never heard you before?
Well, for me, I think, first of all, I think my shows are honest. I'm not trying to be self-righteous,
They are.
I try to go and just be honest, and I tell the truth. And I think the truth is also universal. There's this elitist idea going around now. Everybody has their own truth. Hey, your truth is different from my truth. This is my truth. Hey, you can have your beliefs. Nobody owns the truth. The truth is the truth. Nobody has my truth. Let's cut this out now. There's the truth, and then you have your opinion, and I have mine. But opinions are not like the truth, So I think that is what happens at my show. I go and I tell the truth, and I think that leaves a lasting impression. And I also, try and give a honest show, try and give, 100% of myself. And also, the world is in a space right now where majority of working class and poor people all over the world, we're going through some certain degrees of the same thing, Might be worse somewhere than the other, but, we all feel the oppression of the elites and the corporations that rule this world today, and how their narrative continues to divide humanity and cause so much pain and anguish and poverty too. People think hunger is when you haven't eaten breakfast or lunch or dinner. I always tell people, no, hunger is not knowing if you are going to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah.
That's the real hunger. Not because, you are late from work and you're just like feeling some pangs in your tummy and I'm hungry. No,
That's true.
Yeah.
So before coming here, we were talking a little bit about Africa, and we're talking about the colonial construct of Africa. And Africa has been always in the news in a context of politics, and always in the news in the context of something's wrong there. What can we do to fix that? Where I live, it's like, no, I want to showcase the music. I want to showcase the art. I want to present what the actual, what's going on in the country outside of the borders. It's like, it's really the art and it's the creativity that's coming from that country, and share that throughout the world. In my conversation with you when we were having our in-studio, you brought up an incredible point. It was like these borders were made by colonizers, and some of these troubles are manifested by these borders. What is your take on that right now in the context of this place? We're here at the World Justice Forum. What are some of your ideas to alleviate some of these issues in your home continent?
Well, I think one of the main issues of justice in Africa is that the world is trying to, say to itself and convince itself, well, not the world. Let me just say, the West and the conceptualized West itself, trying to convince itself that whatever is happening in Africa is completely Africa's fault. And we are inherently, failing because, and we have failure inherently made in us in some kind of way. And, but I keep saying to people, the honest truth about Africa is that all African nations were invented by European nations. And everything in this world is created for a purpose, I don't mean divine purpose. I mean, like when we as humans create and invent and build, anything we create and invent and build is built for a purpose, created, invented for. It has a function. African nations were created to exploit the labor and extract the resources of the people trapped in that particular region. And there can be no justice or no progress until African nations are made or forced today to change the purpose of their creation. No real, effort has been put into creating institutions that would erase this legacy, especially when we are made to play by the same rules and the same trade rules, and economically we are judged by the actions of Western economies. We are always constantly compared, and in this so-called level playing field, So I find that the systems in the world, especially when it's relating to motherland people all over the world, not just African nations, the continent of Africa, but black people all over the world. You find that the same way black people can get loans in European and American banks is the same way our banks in Africa don't give us loans, even if they are black-owned. So is it because the bank itself, the institution of banking, is inherently racist? The more hospitals we build in Nigeria, the more doctors graduate from the hospitals in Nigeria, the less healthcare we get. Just the way black people all over the world are denied healthcare. The more lawyers the system produces, the more injustice we face all over the world as motherland people. The more schools we build, the more uneducated we become, the less education we get. So this, for me, are the things that we have to. For me, this is what justice means. Justice means asking the questions and doing something about the real issues that hold motherland people back, the institutionalized racism and discrimination of how institutions are built, specifically to exclude motherland people. And not just in Africa. I mean, even our countries are not built to represent us. And nobody really wants to address these issues, because they're the core of capitalism.
Is it because the issues are too abstract, too hard to deal with right now?
No. It's because that's the core of capitalism. I think if you begin to address these issues, then what pillar is capitalism going to stand on? Where is the extraction, and where you take people's real resources and give them fiat currency, and they have to accept it, or you go and bomb them,
Okay, so your platform is music. You get out and you perform, and people are moved, and they're in many ways changed. It's just so you continue to. You were nominated for the Grammy, so your platform is going to rise. You're going to continue to make records and continue to get that message out. I work at a station/video platform where I'm reaching millions of people, hundreds of millions of people all the time. We're talking about West and Africa. One of the things that's happened recently is we've started to be seen and heard in Asia, specifically China. And it's interesting because in Africa, you're seeing more of Chinese influence, more Chinese financial influence. But to get your music into China is an interesting scenario because I feel that once they see you and hear you, this message is really powerful. And it could start changing the conversation because we're talking West and Africa right now. Now you bring that in, you have an interesting opportunity to talk about social justice to a completely different population. So my question is, in the future, where would you like to see that happen?
You see, I was talking about Chinese investment in Africa on my first record, second record. Yeah, first record. I think Slave Masters, no, second record. I think Slave Masters was my second record. I can't remember. But this was maybe 10 years ago. But I think this is the issue. When we talk of justice, injustice to indigenous people all over the world is not injustice until there's some kind of, Western interest. Mm-hmm. Even as individuals, indigenous people all over the world, we don't deserve justice until we meet a certain criteria. We don't deserve justice based on our humanity. That's why you can shoot a black man in America or an unarmed black man, and people will talk about the cop being scared or him resisting arrest, and they justify his murder based on unconstitutional statements, and the world accepts it. You understand? Like, I don't see any part of the Constitution that says resisting arrest is a death sentence. I mean, that's a bit extreme, but nobody calls American police an extremist organization for taking such actions against poor or rich or any kind of indigenous people in the United States. The excuse will always be given, he was resisting arrest, he was too aggressive. And no part of the Constitution gives you the right. And we all say there's a code for human rights, just like African nations. Obasanjo in Nigeria could commit 2 genocides in my country. Mm-hmm. And the world is silent, because he gives up his oil and names our big avenues, Bill Clinton Avenue, and
really,
yeah, we have a Bill Clinton, the biggest road in Abuja leading to the airport is named after Bill. So yeah, and Libya deserves to be bombed because Gaddafi breaks up a protest. You understand? Macron is breaking up protests every weekend for 18 weeks, 21 weeks now. So justice in the world, you have to meet a certain criteria. And this is what I'm talking about, institutional racism. This is the media institutions' role to play in keeping capitalism and imperialism propped up.
So this is all for you about class struggle?
Yeah, definitely. But I think the class struggle is weak in the world today because, as I said, I think institutional racism weakens the class struggle because it gives benefit to working class people in the West. You understand? Yeah. And for that reason, they, feel, they don't need to be in solidarity with the sufferings of and the oppression of working class people in Africa. Like, it is our problem, But it's a global problem. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, austerity was an African problem. But now it's a European problem too, man. Working class people in Europe are facing these. So with time, as the elites they're always united in the world. There are a few of them so they can easily organize, whatever they practice on the less respected people or lesser people of the world, they are definitely bringing it to the working class people of the West too. It's just going to be time.
Okay. In Lagos, where your home is, what role do you play in not running for politics, but as a spokesperson for your ideas? How are you being received in the country?
Well, I don't really pay attention to being received or being liked much. I think what matters is doing what I feel is my duty as a citizen of this country and living in an oppressive state. For me, it is important that I do what I feel is right. And it's not about, how popular or how accepted it is. As motherland people, I think one of our most important duty today is to make sure that we keep the torch of our liberation burning so that the future generation can, at least, even if we don't liberate ourselves. So my organization is called the Niger Resistance Movement. And NRM, and our motto is Liberation Generation. Because I also believe that one of the major things that hold us back is the continuous psychological manipulation of our people, the criminalization of our identity. That's one of the strongest tools, this so-called black-on-black violence lies that they continue to spread against the black community. There's no such thing as black-on-black violence. There's violence. There's crime. Case closed. People rob and kill and steal people among themselves. But the West wants to constantly, keep us under this. So we as black people, we need to always prove how successful we are. Because you have to also understand the same media that condemns the criminal embraces the successful criminal. So you can have a rapper who is rapping about selling drugs and killing people, but now he's successful and he's sitting next to the president. And nobody's like, hey, how about all these drugs you sold and all these people you killed? What's going on here? But then they'll say that I'm too radical for sitting here and saying that, I'm too disrespectful, I can't sit around. Like recently, the Nipsey Hussle killing in America. I can't believe that after the death of this emerging leader, what we as the black community took from the black misleadership is that gangsterism is good and we need more capitalism. I'm like, he was killed by gangsters. How is gangsterism okay? This is our opportunity to pull out of this. But they're like, held a big gang party.
Well, is it because it's all entertainment?
No. That's the politicization of the criminal identity against the black people. So we believe this. So it looks like we celebrate these things, So these people are paid to celebrate these things. You understand? It's $1 billion industry, and it's in every aspect of our existence. If you come to Africa, the people that are making the most money and the people that are extracting the most and exploiting the people the most. Mm-hmm. You understand? So this is deliberate. So you look on TV, every black athletes come on TV, what do they say? If it's not for sports, I'll be in a gang. I'll be in jail. Nobody's like, I was about to go for my master's, but I was so fast. I thought, let me just run. Every artist, that one they don't even lie. They kill you. Okay. I'm going to quote Jay-Z. I used to be a huge fan. I used to be a huge fan, But I heard, and during my own awakening, because me too, I loved the mafia. Wow. I grew up like that, even when I was Fela's son. I used to just think, man, what is this man saying? That's how deep it is until you come across your own, it's good to have it in the back of your mind. Then something triggers you and you go exploring and you go learning and you go and your eyes open and you see what's really going on in the world, especially as a motherland person, So I was listening to Jay-Z in my car, and he says in the streets he's watching, man, it's hard not to kill niggas. It's like a full-time job not to kill niggas. What? Why is this considered entertainment? Our women are constantly degraded. We are above this, and all they have to sell to us is some luxury lifestyle, and that is why, so we all believe that, okay, to overcome this identity, what do? We have to take our status with us. The biggest chain, the most expensive clothes, the biggest cars, So instead of us to use this money that we make to elevate our communities, You know, Jay-Z was even talking yesterday about gentrifying your own hood. I'm like, what? No, we ain't picking out more poor people for no more. You've tried enough in Brooklyn. Anyway, that's an inside joke, but I'm not afraid to say it. Anyway, so, where was I? So we are forced to always take our status with us everywhere we go so we can be respected, you know. Because if you are black, if you are not rich, you are a criminal. There's no in between, you know. So, hey, and everybody justifies this, you know. And I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of building our community. So I always say to us, the new way of being successful cannot be the amount of foreign things that we can consume as motherland people, but the amount of things that we can build in our communities, you know. And that for me is not something extreme to say. It's not an extremist statement. It's not a divisive statement. It's not a statement that wants to take us to the past and not make us enjoy ourselves. We just have to be brave enough to find a new definition for success as motherland people, regardless of this stigma, regardless of the imposition of this false identity, you know. Because as far as Fanon said, you know, the black man is nothing but the creation of the white man, you know, and where he has put all his the most evil part of his own behavior and his own habit, and he just put it on this boom, you know. So yeah, and we just have to overcome that. We have to be mentally strong enough to see ourselves as human and not how we are perceived, and stand and demand our respect, you know, because that's what justice is. Justice is that we are humans first, not that we have to prove our humanity before we get justice. No, we get justice regardless.
So we're at the World Justice Forum. If we're lucky, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we're back here again. And your father spoke about Pan-Africanism and about breaking those colonial boundaries. Do you think that's still an important way to look at the motherland and where the future could go? Would we be talking about this in 10, 15 years here?
I don't know, you know. Sometimes change happens like that. I might even have bigger problems. The aliens might come before 15 years. And I'm just telling the human race, listen right now. With the amount of ish that we get in this world right now, if the aliens come, I'm switching sides. I'm switching sides. I'm going to be their inside guy. Agent Kuti, y'all. Yeah, I'm not getting zapped because of you people. You don't need no more. Listen, there's a place called the White House. Zap that first. Number 10, I know where they are. You know, 10, 15 years from now, I hope humanity, you know, actually begins to accept, you know, what justice really means. And we should not deny people just their own justice because we want to keep our own privilege. You know, when I see more and more of the struggles that gain prominence in the West are struggles of, you know, marginalized Westerners asking for more share of imperialism.
Yeah.
You understand? Not that, oh, stop imperialism or, you know, because like, for example, people say, oh, Seun Kuti is not, why do you say you're not a feminist? I'm like, it's not because, I don't say I'm not a feminist, I don't respect women. You know, my grandmother is Olufumilayo, and she was an Afrikaner womanist, and I understand that. And this is not about equality. They say, oh, you don't want women to be equal to men. I'm like, when women say they want to be equal to men, what men? Black men? Who wants to be equal to a black man and get shot on the street like a dog? You want to be equal to the white man, and we don't need more white men. I'm sorry. The world today, 5 of the top leading arms manufacturing companies are run by women. Is that what the glory, is that how women want to liberate themselves? I don't think we need to liberate ourselves into an oppressive state or oppressive system. Every movement we have in the world has to be something to change this system, not to divide us among sexes and gender and sexuality and race. You know, these are the constant cards. So anytime I see all these integrationist movements, they are actually dividing the working class. You know, dividing our energies, you know, and the way we should attack and suppress this subvert this oppressive system. And this is what we have to all contribute our energies to, globally, not just in Africa or in Nigeria or in Asia, but globally, even in the West, where we believe everything is fine and rosy and dandy. So that's what I believe, I really don't believe in any kind of divisive ideology, I really want to see a world where the working class and the poor people of this world are working towards a real change, not just more share, of oppression. Oh, I deserve more share of this imperialism. Come on. That can be the next step. That can be the next move to make,
Well, your message is being heard, and it's growing, and you're seeing more bands. Going back to what we started, there are more and more bands. I never expected Afrobeat bands to come out of Iceland. It's like, how is this working?
Listen,
but it's working.
I was some band from Israel.
Yeah.
Try to get me on the record. I'm like, listen, I don't think my career is strong enough right now to do an album with a band from
Israel.
From Israel. My career is not that strong right now.
But you have an Afrobeat band from Jordan, an Afrobeat band from Israel.
Everywhere.
Afrobeat band in India, Afrobeat band
everywhere.
This music, you're having political conflict within these two countries, between the Arab world and Israel. But you've got Afrobeat music from these places. They're coming together through music, through this message that is a powerful message. Music
because the Afrobeat message
weapon.
is a working people's message. And I think if you really listen to the message, it unifies, man. It's a message of unity. It's a message that we as the people have to become. I mean, the world can no longer sustain capitalism. People talk about global warming, And I say that I don't believe that is the problem. Not like Trump. There is global warming.
Let's not go there.
I'm not I'm not like Trump saying there's no global warming. That's a lie. There is global warming, but the problem is not global warming, it's profits. The earth can no longer sustain profits. Not carbon emission, the earth can no longer sustain profit. And that is the truth. Capitalism is what is hitting the world up, is what is causing global warming. Not our own consumption or your individual waste, and they make us want to constantly recycle, as if we recycle every day, it's going to make a difference. If the corporations and governments do not change the way that they also relate with the natural world, our relationship with the natural world is highly flawed, under this oppressive system, because it doesn't only oppress humanity, it oppresses nature as well,
Yeah, but that conversation always leads to, so what's the opposite? What's the other than the system that we have right now?
I don't think there's one system that can answer it, but I don't also think that if we really want to find something that works, humanity can't. It's just because the will to do it has not been put forward. I'm just a musician, and I know something is wrong, but I'm sure there are sociologists, there are political scientists, chemists, doctors, lawyers, that can actually create this new consciousness along with new art and new entertainment and new inspiration. I'm ready to provide that, But we need to create a new system that is beneficial, not just to humanity, to nature as well,
But people are interested in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And they're spending money to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that message is growing globally. It's not just what used to be just a tiny little sliver. Now it's spreading globally. And going back to our conversation, this is the classic model. They're deciding to take your message and your father's message and how it's evolving. You're right, it doesn't have an owner. It's music. You don't own it. And continuing to, you don't...
We only own the one we've composed. We only own the one we composed. You take my stuff, you pay me my publishing. Or if you make yours,
But you make your own, scene. And so one of the reasons I wanted you to be here was to specifically, this is a thing that used to be small, now it's bigger and growing and growing and growing. And in 10, 15 years, it goes like that. It could become a pillar of helping make this change. So thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, It's my pleasure making this music. It's my pleasure coming here to speak with everybody, And thanks for having me.
Thank you. Seun Kuti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. For those of you who want to go to the afternoon sessions, the buses will leave from the front of the building in probably 10 minutes or so, so you can make your way out to the front. You can take a minute to say hi to Sean and Derek as well, and we'll see you all at the reception at Poultry Studio, hosted by the Municipality of The Hague, at around 5:30 tonight after your working sessions. Thank you, everyone. We've got a request to have the footage roll again.
No, but Pan-Africanism is believing in black ability. You know, the abilities we've been told we are naturally incapable of possessing. You know, America, most people do as it should be. Maybe if a last make is played 5 times in a month or 10 times. I don't think that far. You know, for me,
it catches up.
Yeah, I know. But my philosophy is to always make sure I take the right decision now. You know, taking the right decision now fixes 10 years. And I know I cannot afford these new environments they're going to go and create in Mars.